got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message.
With President Trump writing on Truth Social, the Houthis have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American ships, aircraft, and drones. Your attacks must stop starting today. And if they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before, writes the president. With President Trump's new message to Iran, with the commander-in-chief ordering a powerful and deadly attack against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen over the weekend. Multiple rebels dead after the strikes hit the intended targets in Yemen's capital city on Saturday.
President Trump is pounding the Houthi rebels with overwhelming military force, but the rebels are also retaliating with equally deadly force. For each B-2 Spirit airstrike, the rebels respond with a swarm of Shahed 136 drones and cruise missiles targeted directly at the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier. And in a few horrifying moments, the iconic warship unbelievably lost its command in the middle of the treacherous Red Sea. Now, the Marines are in a panic, wondering how a group of mountain rebels could pull off such a devastating strike. Where are they getting these advanced weapons? And what has Iran, China, and Russia got to do with all of this? The USS Harry S. Truman is one of America's most powerful aircraft carriers. This ship is almost like a floating military city. But in March 2025, it became the target of a deadly attack while sailing through the Red Sea. Just a few days earlier, President Donald Trump had ordered a brutal airstrike into Yemen. He sent B-2 Spirit bombers to hit Houthi rebel camps and take out their high-level leadership for attacking American ships on the Red Sea.
We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message.
The rebels got the message, and 48 hours later, they responded by launching a counterattack against the American troops from the Yemeni coast. They fired a swarm of Iranian-made Shahed 136 drones and cruise missiles straight at the USS Harry S. Truman. The Houthis' military leadership later released a video claiming they had struck the Truman for the 4th time in 2 days. In fact, some reports even claimed that the ship had lost full command for a while.
تمكنت القوات المسلحة اليمنية خلال الساعات الماضية من استهداف حاملة الطائرات الأمريكية USS هاري ترومان شمالي البحر الأحمر، وذلك بصاروخين مجنحين وطائرتين مسيرتين، واستهداف مدمرة أمريكية بصاروخ مجنح وأربع طائرات مسيرة. ويعد الاستهداف لحاملة الطائرات هو الثالث خلال 48 ساعة الماضية.
But the Pentagon denied it all. According to official reports, no damage was done to the carrier and no one was hurt. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Alexis Grinkowicz completely dismissed the attacks. He said the rebels were unbelievably missing their targets by a huge margin.
The Houthis claim to have tried to attack the Harry S. Truman. Quite frankly, it's hard to tell because while we're executing precision strikes, they missed by over 100 miles.
Now, even though the drones didn't hit their target, the fact that the rebel group could dare to launch such a brutal attack at a U.S. aircraft carrier shocked the Marines aboard the Truman and the entire United States military. For the first time in years, a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier had been attacked in open waters by a foreign militia. This is an act of war, but this war goes way back before the drones and missiles started flying. To understand why the USS Harry S. Truman was attacked, we need to go back to October 2023. It was just weeks after Hamas launched the October 7th attacks in Israel. But while the world was still reacting to that chaos, another threat quietly began to rise from Yemen. The Houthi rebels started launching missiles and drones into the Red Sea. They were targeting everything from commercial ships, cargo ships, oil tankers, and even U.S. Navy vessels. Here's footage of the rebels hijacking a commercial ship in June 2024.
true.
The Houthi rebels are able to do this because they sit right next to one of the most important shipping lanes in the world, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. This narrow stretch of water is like a highway for global trade. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through it, connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa. And the Houthis knew that. Even though they only control about 20 to 30% of Yemen, they control the part that matters, the coastline. That gave them the power to choke off one of the world's most vital arteries. And they did exactly that, claiming that they were acting in solidarity with Palestinians. From October 2023 to early 2025, the attacks became relentless. According to U.S. defense officials, the Houthis struck U.S. Navy ships 174 times. They hit commercial shipping vessels 145 times. The global economy lost an estimated $200 billion as a result. Shipping companies were forced to take massive detours around Africa, avoiding the Red Sea and Suez Canal altogether. Consequently, fuel costs skyrocketed. Delivery times doubled. Insurance prices went up 20 times higher. Just think about that for a second. A regional militia managed to disrupt the entire global economy from Yemen. And what was the U.S. doing while all this happened? Well, under the Biden administration, the military's response was limited. Every time the Houthis launched an attack, the U.S. would respond with what many insiders called pinprick strikes. Apparently, the rebels didn't feel threatened by the Biden administration. In fact, they totally ignored them and doubled down on their attacks. But everything changed on January 20th, 2025. That was the day Donald Trump returned to office, and he made it clear from day one that things were about to change.
We're not going to have these guys, these people with weapons able to tell us where our ships can go, where the ships of all the world can go, by the way. It's not just the U.S. We're doing the world a favor.
The Trump team began planning a full-scale campaign, not just to punish the Houthis, but to destroy their ability to launch future attacks. And they made good on their words on March 15th, 2025, when President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This was a rarely used piece of legislation that gave the president power to deal with foreign threats in times of conflict. The last time this act was used was during World War II. This time it was used as part of a broader strategy, not only to deport dangerous foreign gang members like MS-13 and TDA, but to signal a hard shift in how the U.S. deals with terrorist groups like the Houthi rebels. By the end of March 2025, President Trump had deployed about 6 B-2 Spirit bombers from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. They traveled halfway across the world to Diego Garcia, a remote U.S. military base in the Indian Ocean. This place is a critical launch pad for deep strikes in the Middle East, and when B-2 bombers land there, it usually means something big is about to happen. Along with the B-2s, F-35 fighter jets and Tomahawk cruise missiles were also sent in, and once the operation began, Yemen lit up. The strikes targeted Houthi bases, missile storage sites, training camps, radar systems, and underground bunkers. Cities like Saada and Sana'a, strongholds of the Houthi movement, saw entire neighborhoods shake from the force of the blasts. The mission was simple: cripple the Houthis' ability to fight, stop their attacks on commercial ships, and protect the Red Sea trade route from their constant pirate attacks. Within the first week alone, over 150 targets were destroyed, including their Houthi leadership and missile experts. Pentagon officials claimed it was a major success.
Got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message.
The difference is these were not kind of pinprick back and forth, what ultimately proved to be feckless attacks. This was an overwhelming response that actually targeted multiple Houthi leaders and took them out.
But there was one major problem. The Houthis never backed down. In fact, just days after the initial airstrikes, a cargo ship in the Red Sea was reportedly attacked again by a drone that looked almost identical to the Iranian-made Shahed 136. It became clear at this point that despite the billions spent, the state-of-the-art aircraft, and the non-stop bombing, the Houthis are still standing tall. The U.S. has thrown everything into this campaign, hoping to get them to quickly make a deal. However, that is unlikely to happen as soon as the U.S. wants, because this rebel group is being sponsored by a regional power in the Middle East. But the Pentagon is not backing down until it gets what it wants.
The minute the Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, It will be unrelenting.
At first, this looked like just another fight between the US and a terrorist rebel group in the Middle East. But once you look more closely, you'll see that this goes much deeper than that. The United States has claimed that this is a proxy war because the Houthis are not acting alone or completely out of their own will.
It is Iran that has repeatedly funded, resourced, trained, and helped the Houthis target not only U.S. warships, but global commerce, and has helped the Houthis shut down two of the world's most strategic sea lanes.
Since 2015, Iran has been backing and sponsoring the Houthis through its elite military wing called the Quds Force, which is part of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. And they don't just hand over weapons and walk away. No, Iran is giving them the needed training and technology, and even helping them build weapons inside Yemen. We're talking about underground missile factories, drone assembly lines, and secret bunkers, all funded and guided by Tehran. By early 2025, the Houthis had exploded in size. According to the United Nations, they now have over 350,000 fighters. That's 10 times the size they were just a few years ago. But it's not just the numbers that is the problem. They've got hundreds of combat drones like the deadly Shahed 136 and Samad 3. These drones were customized by Iranian engineers to hit moving targets like Navy ships and commercial cargo vessels. They also have ballistic missiles that can fly over 150 miles and anti-ship cruise missiles made to hit U.S. destroyers and aircraft carriers. Iran has turned the Houthis into a real military threat, not just to Yemen, but to the whole region. But the Houthis are just one piece of a bigger puzzle. They're part of what Iran calls the axis of resistance. This is a network of armed groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and now the Houthis in Yemen. All of them are funded, trained, and armed by Iran. And they all have the same mission: destroy the U.S. and their allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia, and push the United States out of the Middle East by every means possible. But Iran is not showing its face. They use the Houthis and all the other groups to attack American targets. But every time the U.S. confronts them, Iran says, "It wasn't us, it was our allies." But this time, the U.S. isn't falling for it. President Trump and his national security team are holding Iran fully responsible.
The message is clear. We will come after the Houthis until they stop shooting at our ships, and the Iranians better stay out of it.
Just days before that statement, Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, warned that any direct U.S. military action against them would come at a high cost. In response, the U.S. military rerouted the USS Carl Vinson to join the USS Harry S. Truman in the Arabian Sea. Now, 2 full U.S. carrier groups are sitting just off the coast of Yemen. And if things escalate further, the outcome will not be nice because Iran is now very close to becoming a nuclear power. According to U.S. intelligence and nuclear watchdogs, Iran has now enriched uranium up to 84% purity. Now, experts believe if Iran wanted to, it could have enough material for a nuclear bomb in as little as 12 days. And once that line is crossed, there's no going back. Iran would officially become a nuclear power. And that's not just a threat to Israel or Saudi Arabia. That's a threat to the whole world. But the United States is not going to sit and let that happen.
Well, what the president has has repeatedly said is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. All options are on the table to ensure it does not have one. They can either hand it over and give it up in a way that is verifiable, or they can face a whole series of other consequences. But either way, we cannot have a world with the Ayatollahs with their finger on the nuclear button. We cannot have a situation that would result in an arms race across the Middle East.
President Trump has given Iran a 2-month ultimatum: come back to the table and stop building nuclear warheads or face the consequences.
I've written him a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them.
You wrote a letter to the Khomeini,
Yes.
the leader? When did you send the letter?
Yesterday.
Iran saw this as a threat and didn't take it lightly. They fired back by posting a threatening video of their underground missile bunkers to tell the U.S. that their threat did not faze them. At this point, the situation in the Middle East has turned into something much more than the US had expected. This has become a full-blown geopolitical chess match, with Iran and the US staring each other down. And it gets even more dangerous when you add Russia and China to the mix. Ever since the war in Ukraine started, Iran and Russia have gotten a lot closer. Iran's been shipping drones, artillery, and ammo to help Russia fight. In return, Russia is believed to be giving Iran missile tech, nuclear research, and advanced military gear. Together, they're building a new military alliance aimed directly at the West. And while China hasn't taken a public side, they've been reportedly making deals behind closed doors. According to some reports, China has been supplying the Houthis with surveillance tools and digital warfare systems. These systems help them track and target US ships in the Red Sea. So now we're looking at a completely new kind of war, a 21st century hybrid war with a deadly mix of terrorism, cyber attacks, and nuclear threats. The United States had apparently underestimated the abilities of the Houthi rebels to resist them before the beginning of this missile campaign. Yes, dozens of their bases and weapons have been destroyed. Some of their top-ranking leaders have been killed as well. But it still feels like nothing has changed. The rebels are still resisting the United States' aggression with overwhelming force. Now, many people are wondering why the situation didn't turn out as the United States had envisioned. Well, the answer comes down to 4 painful reasons. Firstly, the Houthis are now incredibly resilient. With over 350,000 fighters, they're no longer a small group of terrorists hiding in the bushes. They've built an army with help from Iran, and they've learned to survive. You can only destroy as many weapons as you can, but many more will pop up the very next day.
I think there's a recognition, however, that the Houthis do have significant military capability. This is going to be difficult. They have an arsenal. Many of their weapons are hidden. They have good practice at weathering these kinds of strikes. They weathered over 25,000 airstrikes by Saudi Arabia in the years between 2015 and 2022. And they've weathered US-UK airstrikes for an entire year, as well as some by Israel. So it's definitely not going to be easy.
Secondly, Iran is playing a long game. You see, the more pressure the US puts on the Houthis, the more Iran doubles down. And don't forget, they've directly warned the US to leave them out of their fight with the Houthis or face the consequences. That means they are ready to go head-to-head with the American forces if it ever comes to that. They could also activate Hezbollah in Lebanon and militia groups in Iraq and Syria. Thirdly, the civilian deaths have turned every military win into a political loss. Innocent people are dying. The images are heartbreaking. And instead of weakening the Houthis, the strikes have strengthened them, especially among poor and angry Yemeni communities who see the US as an invader and the Houthis as their protectors. And finally, the biggest problem of all, airstrikes don't fix the real issue. The truth is, this war started long before drones and bombs started going off. It began with poverty, discrimination, and political inequality, especially toward the Zaidi Shia community in Yemen. Those problems are still there, and no missile can solve them. Even back in 2022, a UN-brokered ceasefire gave Yemen 6 months of rare peace. In 2023, Saudi Arabia even held talks with Houthi leaders in Riyadh, showing that dialogue was possible. But now, all of that progress is falling apart. Nobody trusts anyone. The Houthis think Saudi Arabia will betray them. The Saudi-backed Yemeni government feels ignored, and Iran has no interest in giving up its influence. Washington, on the other hand, doesn't want to look weak, especially with President Trump now in power. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Without a political solution, this war will likely never end. And that's the trap. The US has vowed to keep bombing. So, the Houthis will, of course, keep fighting. Civilians keep dying, and peace keeps slipping further away. Now, do you think it makes sense that President Trump is trying to achieve peace through the use of overwhelming force? Do you think his approach can get the rebels to bow, or will it escalate things further? And if Iran refuses to end its nuclear ambitions, will Trump actually follow through and bomb the country? Feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories like the ones on your screen right now. Click on any of the cards on your screen to watch more of our videos.